Okay, it's come back to me. When I was in school, this is going back in the 90s, I remember there was a business class and there was a chapter on antitrust. The example given, if I remember correctly, was Bell Communications. It was deemed too big, too powerful, and therefore it had to be broken up into parts, into different companies. And at the time, I thought, and I still do, that it was a good idea because no corporation should be so powerful as to be able to control every facet of our lives. I believe you do need government intervention there. Now, the thing is, I never heard any more about antitrust after that. I've never heard of it being spoken about. It seems to be taken for granted that corporations can now grow as large as they wish. There's no real government intervention. And I think a good example, a good case in point is during this scamdemic. And these are things I sometimes forget what went on during the scamdemic. And sometimes you have to kind of scratch your head and say, did it really happen? You know, did it really happen? But I was watching a video the other night. It's from an American guy. I might actually put a link to the video if I can find it. And he was talking about different topics, but then he brought up something from the scamdemic that I remember hearing about on several occasions, but I'd forgotten. And that is that during the scamdemic, if you wanted to have heart surgery in certain countries, I believe in many countries, if you wanted to have heart surgery, you wanted to have any sort of surgery whatsoever, you had to do a PCR test. And if I'm not wrong, you also, in some cases, I think you had to prove that you've been vaccinated. Now, people can let me know if that's true or not. I think I remember hearing that you had to be vaccinated in order to receive medical attention. And I do remember reading an article about some guy, I think it was in Ireland. He broke his arm or something, and they wouldn't treat him unless he got a PCR test. So this is what happens when corporations become colossal in size. They become death cults. People are let die because they won't participate in the money laundering. They won't get down on their knees and, you know, pray to these companies. They'll be left out in the cold. They'll be let die unnecessarily because they're not promoting the corporation's interests. There has to be a very, very deep analysis done, and I hope the intelligent people out there are doing it, because in years to come, unless it's memory hold, and you know that is very likely, so much is going to come out about this. And I've talked about it on a few occasions in a few podcasts. That I remember seeing a video, allegedly it was from a hospital or a hospice, And these were terminally ill, elderly patients. They only had days left to live. Riddled with cancer, days left to live. And the nurses, the workers were going in several times a day to administer PCR tests. And they were shoving those things right up the nostrils of these old people. These old people who were only days away from dying. You know, their final days on this planet, they're suffering. You want to maximize the comfort levels as much as possible. And these cretins were going into their bedrooms, going to their beds, manhandling them to do a phony baloney, I use that word again, phony baloney PCR test. So that they could make money. So that Big Pharma could make money. It could go down on a spreadsheet somewhere. Alan O'Reilly has received 7 PCR tests today, and for our part we'll receive so much money, and for their part Big Pharma will receive so much money. Yeah. You know, you think things like this couldn't happen, but they do. You think that things like this are just from books, from fiction, but they're not.